My name is Cliff Chiang, and I'm here at Heroes Aren't Hard to Find in Charlotte, and we're doing a signing today for Spider Gwen, Paper Girls, and I Hate Fairyland.
I'm Fletcher, and we're here for the same thing. I'm signing for Spider Gwen, Paper Girls, and I Hate Fairyland.
I first worked with Brian Vaughan about 15 years ago on a Swamp Thing story. It was probably one of the first things I drew, and it was, just as Brian's career was really starting to take off. And I had a great experience with it. He really loved the story, and we've been trying to work together for about 15 years, and just our schedules never matched up.
I first worked with Brian on Ex Machina when I was still in-house lettering at DC Comics, and I like working with Brian a lot. I think he's by far and away, I think one of the most professional kind of writers I've ever worked with. And it's exciting to kind of get a chance to work with him again. I always enjoyed working with him. I like his stuff, and it's a pleasure. And Cliff and I had worked together on Wonder Woman when we were sharing a studio space, and so we're going to keep working together, I think. So.
I've been lucky that most of the writers I work with are very collaborative, and they have a vision that they put down on the script, but they're not married to it. They know that it's going to change as it goes through the artist's hands. So I've always been given a lot of free, just a lot of, I guess leeway to change things, if I think they'll, fit better or if they'll look better. And it's the same thing with Brian. So he's like, if you see a better way to do it, then do it. So with the characters, he had written them really clearly in the script, and so I had a good picture of them in my head, and it was just doing a couple rounds of sketches for myself before showing them to Brian, and we were good to go.
One of the things that I think I'm known for in doing this is that everything I do has a different look to it, because I think the goal of it is to try to match the art as close as possible. So if you look at I also work on Southern Bastards with Jason, and that looks completely different than this looks, which looks completely different than when I did The Spirit or The New Frontier with Darwin Cook. So the goal is to try to match what the art looks like versus what the mood of the kind of project is. And I think with this we'd only discussed we want to do an upper lowercase, right? And then the big challenge was in designing the alien font, which lasted a day, I think, before someone cracked it on Twitter. I was kind of hoping for a little bit longer there, but I think that one we went through a few rounds, because we started off as a Korean handwriting, I think was the initial note, and then it sort of kept going through cycles there until I'd kind of honed it down to the characters that we needed, and then I got Nate from Blambot. He helped build the physical font. He put all together all the pieces that I had into something that would function. And we've been using it on a lot of stuff here and there. We're going to be using it on more than just some of the interior dialogue. It's also going to be some of the design pages and stuff moving forward. We're going to start to kind of have little clues slip out here and there, in the alien font. It keeps getting weirder and more fun, I think. To me, I just turned in issue 4 the other night, last night before I came here, and I've been impressed with how, I don't know any kind of grand plan with it, right? I only know when I get to see it after he's done, and I will say that it keeps getting when you think you know what it is, then you don't. And it becomes something more interesting kind of as it goes along, and I that's what I like about it. I like that it's sort of unfolding, kind of as it goes along. It gets weirder. And I think it's a really great, I think it's using all the Cliff tools to the best of Cliff's ability here. It has a lot of quiet moments with these kids talking, and then wild stuff, the sky opens up and there's dinosaurs and stuff in that first issue. So it's a good balance of that kind of thing. And I think it's great to see all this kind of wild stuff that he's kind of come up with as it moves along.
We deliberately started small so that you got to know the characters first, and then each issue after that gets weirder and the story gets bigger and bigger, and by the end of the first arc you realize that the story can kind of go anywhere, and it goes to some surprising places.
I think maybe my favorite character has been introduced in issue 4. I don't know if he's gonna be my favorite yet, but I think I took one look at this guy, this is pretty awesome. I'm excited about it. I hope he sticks around.
I've been talking with Jason Latour and Rico and Robbie about doing Spider Gwen covers for a while, and I had done one that was supposed to be for issue 1, just a regular variant. And then when we started talking about coming down for a signing, Rico said, "Hey, well, why don't we do a store variant for number 1?" And I thought that would be great. And he specifically asked for, the Mary Janes. And I love that. I love being able to do a Spider Gwen cover that didn't really have Spider Gwen on it. It just had them rocking out. And I thought it was a lot of fun. It's just whenever you get to see fun, real life stuff in the comics, it always makes it that much better and that much more like approachable and real.
I'm a big fan of like Swiss design, like Swiss typography, and I'm a bigger fan of like kind of like Japanese. I have like a bunch of books in like Japanese like logo and kind of like magazine layout kind of design, like, because in both cases everything's very clean, very kind of modern, very like stripped down, and like that's what I like in the design stuff that like I do personally. Like I like bold logo kind of types. I like legible kind of stuff. I don't like a lot of filters. I like everything just be kind of like stripped so that the art kind of shines more through, and like something that also keep like with the Paper Girls logo, like it captures like that 80s kind of brushy kind of vibe to it. Like I know that when we sat down, we talked about like Interview magazine and we talked about Sassy. Like a lot of the design elements like in Paper Girls are influenced by that kind of like late 80s MTV era, kind of like the color schemes. And there's like always that, the font Futuras through everything. It's like Futura just mixed with like brush stuff a lot. So we try to kind of we want to like, with Paper Girls, I wanted to touch on those things, but I don't want it to look like a straight kind of rip-off or whatever. Like there's that cartoon show that we saw, that Moonbeam City or something.
Right.
Like I didn't want it to look like so obviously 80s, but like just be filtered what I would come up with, if I was like in charge of basically like putting together like my own version of Sassy magazine or whatever. And like you see a lot of that like in the back matter. Like there's the tools that keep it like recognizable from that, but I've sort of like moved them around and kind of like spat them out through like my own kind of personal filter.
I started working in comics in editorial at DC Comics. I was with the Vertigo imprint, and I did that for a few years while I was getting my portfolio ready. I knew that I wanted to draw comics, but I wasn't sure if I was good enough. So it took a few years to really just keep working at it and see if I could break in. And eventually I went freelance and was drawing mostly Vertigo material for a little bit, and then started doing some DC stuff with Secret Files and stuff like that.
I, like Cliff, was also on staff at DC Comics. I went to the Kubert School, and then they had just started an in-house lettering department when I was hired. So I was maybe like the second person that got hired into that. And yeah, I was there for like 4 years, I think, before I left, like to go freelance, and then just freelance in New York. But yeah, we both shared like that weird kind of fraternity badge or whatever from like being like former DC kind of staffers. We didn't actually
overlap. I think you started right after I left.
Yeah, it was like 2003. I think.
Really? Okay, so it's a few years. The first time I remember meeting Jared was in a limousine.
Yes.
We were in a limousine going to Bob Schreck's party, Halloween party, I think?
I think it was just like a party.
Yeah,
like he used to have like an annual, like Bob was editing the Batman group at the time. And he would have people come out to New Jersey, and he just had this house party. And he one year had like a limo pick you up at the train station and take you to his house. And you were like, this is awesome. And so I remember like you came out with Jenny, right? And then I came out with Scott Nybach, who was like a collected editions editor, who's a friend of mine. And it was just we'd never met. We're in this limo. And we're driving around in the dark, and this guy had no idea where he was going.
Yes, the guy got lost. That's right.
We were lost for like an hour, and like I remember Jenny being like super hungry, Scott being very irritated, and then like the guy like asking us like if we could point out the street signs to him, but we're like, dude, we're in the back of like a tinted limo. like 8 o'clock at night. We can't see anything.
Yeah.
It's just everything is like pitch black.
Before Google Maps.
Yes, before iPhone, before
Yeah.
all of that, and like eventually we got there, but like the whole thing was like, yeah. I don't know. I thought we got along.
Yeah, no, we did.
No
we
one
did.
panicked or anything.
No,
like
it's,
that.
we all survived.
Yeah. And then we had a studio together in Brooklyn for about 4 years with Andy McDonald, and then because we were all looking for like new studio spaces, and so like the three of us kind of joined forces, and we kept it in the neighborhood because like you were working from home.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Andy was working from home, and I was working like. I had to take the bus, and they were canceling the bus line out to my studio, and like I wanted to be kind of closer to home, so we were trying to find something right in our little neighborhood there to share. Because like we own it, you know, like the four of us are all like we own it, like we're invested in this kind of thing, and like it's different than doing like a corporate kind of thing, you know, like it's I don't know, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I hope people, you know, a lot of people picked up the first issue. I hope they keep doing it. You know, hope they stay excited about the book because I think we just have better stuff coming out, you know, as the story goes on. But it's, you know, it's nice to know that it is getting, you know, there's some visibility for it, and that people are being exposed to it, and they're seeing comics that aren't just your regular thing. You know, the stuff that we've all, you know, been reading years.
Yeah, that, you know what? That's been like the gratifying thing about it. I think is to see people respond to something that, like, when we set out to do this, especially like visually, like we only wanted to do exactly what we wanted to do, and we'd all kind of knew what we wanted, and then we just did that, and there was no one kind of telling us that we couldn't do that. So to see people responding to that so positively is great because I think it's a nice kind of reminder that we were on to something. Yeah. You know, like that our instincts and our tastes are kind of like, you know, we know what we're doing. You know, it's good to see people respond.